Imagine this. It's 7 days before Christmas. Snow dusts the roofs of a quiet Ohio neighborhood, fairy lights blink in windows, and the air smells faintly of pine and cinnamon. But inside one particular house, the warmth of the season is about to be replaced by something unthinkable. On the night of December 18th, 2023, a woman vanished from her own home. And by the time the truth came out, a family would be destroyed, a small town shaken to its core, and the word Christmas would never mean the same thing again. Before we dive into this chilling story, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because the mystery we're about to unpack will take us deep into the darkness that can hide behind smiling family portraits. And trust me, you're going to want to hear how this ends. Her name was Tiffany Morrison, 34 years old, a devoted mother of 3, described by friends as warm, dependable, and deeply loved by her in-laws. She was last seen by her mother-in-law, Kay, who adored her like her own daughter. Kay remembers that moment clearly. Tiffany stepping into the glow of the Christmas tree, Kay wrapping her in a hug, whispering, "I love you," and hearing Tiffany's voice reply, "I love you too." It would be the last time she ever heard her speak. At first, nobody panicked. Tiffany's house was hectic. 3 kids, multiple schedules, holiday errands, people come and go. But on December 20th, 2 days later, the Columbiana County Sheriff's Office received a chilling tip. There was a body in a house on Shadyside Road. That house was Kay's. The man who came forward with the tip was no stranger. His name was Randy Slager, a lifelong friend of Tiffany's husband, Christopher Morrison. He arrived at the police station with his father in tow. The kind of detail that makes you realize just how scared he must have been. What Randy told police sounded like the plot of a nightmare. According to him, Christopher had brought him into the basement on the night of December 18th. Upstairs, Kay and the kids were unaware of what was happening beneath their feet. In the basement bathroom, Christopher showed him something. A bullet hole in the shower wall, cleaned of blood. He told Randy he'd shot Tiffany, then pulled out his phone and displayed a photo of her, a gunshot wound to her face. Christopher wanted help moving her body. She was wrapped in a tarp, rolled up inside a carpet. When Randy hesitated, Christopher pointed a gun at him and threatened to kill everyone in the house, including his 3 children. Fear won out. Randy helped carry Tiffany up the stairs, through the quiet home and out to Christopher's Jeep. From there, they took her to the shed. Police didn't dismiss this as a drunk friend's tall tale. Tiffany's phone records confirmed that her last message was sent at 6:50 p.m. on December 18th. 13 texts had been sent to her after that, and she never replied. Now they needed to act. But Christopher was armed, dangerous, and had already threatened his kids. The plan was simple: lure him away from the house. Randy called, pretending he needed a ride. Police intercepted Christopher at 6:10 p.m. on December 20th during a traffic stop. He was polite, calm, even casual, as they took the gun from his belt line and found a switchblade on him. Back at the station, Christopher didn't act like a man who'd just been accused of murder. He leaned back in his chair, feigning confusion. At first, he claimed Tiffany had simply left him. They'd argued about her seeing another man, he said. She wanted the car to drive to her boyfriend's. He refused. According to him, they drove part way, argued again, and he kicked her out into the snow. He admitted he'd kept her phone, but insisted she was alive when he last saw her. To anyone listening, it might have sounded like the messy end of a failing marriage. But downstairs, at that very moment, police were executing a search warrant on his home. In the bathroom, a section of shower wall removed, a bullet lodged behind it. On the floor, a reddish-brown stain. In the shed, a rug, plastic sheeting, and inside, black trash bags. 6 of them. The bags contained Tiffany's dismembered body, just as Randy had described. The gunshot wound to her face had been fired from no more than 3 feet away. Back at the station, detectives gave Christopher the opportunity to tell his side before evidence sealed his fate. He refused. Instead, he asked to talk to his children, the same children Randy said he'd threatened to kill. From that moment, the case wasn't about finding Tiffany. It was about proving exactly how Christopher Morrison had gone from teenage sweetheart to cold-blooded killer. And the deeper investigators dug, the more disturbing the story became. Christopher and Tiffany's relationship stretched back to when they were just 18. They'd built a business together, a massage therapy clinic called Essential Needs, and they'd raised 3 children. But running a business, raising a family, and living under the same roof as Christopher's parents created cracks in their marriage. When Christopher's father died in 2022, Tiffany's bond with her mother-in-law Kay grew even stronger, but the household itself became tense, chaotic. Tiffany wanted more independence. She dreamed of her own place, away from Christopher's control. He saw that as betrayal. In December 2023, everything came to a head. Tiffany had started seeing another man, Jake Hill, a younger co-worker she met at her second job. To Christopher, it wasn't just infidelity, it was humiliation. When Jake sent him explicit photos of himself with Tiffany, Christopher's jealousy turned dangerous. He began threatening Jake and confronting Tiffany, sometimes violently. Tiffany wanted out. She told Christopher she wanted to separate, to share custody of the kids. But to him, separation meant losing not just his wife, but control over her. And in his mind, if he couldn't have her, no one could. Kay remembers that in the days before Tiffany's disappearance, Christopher was acting odd. On Tuesday, the day after Tiffany was last seen, he was emotionally volatile. He began burning trash in the backyard, something he rarely did. Looking back, Kay believes she may have been watching her son destroy evidence. The more police spoke to friends and family, the clearer the picture became. Christopher had a history of violence. As a teenager, he'd been sent to treatment for aggression after stabbing another kid and killing a dog. In his marriage, there had been infidelity on both sides. But Tiffany's affair struck a nerve he could not tolerate. Jake Hill told investigators Tiffany had confided in him that Christopher wasn't right in the head, and that she feared what he might do if she left. Her instincts were tragically correct. What happened in that basement on December 18th is known only to Christopher and Tiffany. But the evidence suggests the fight escalated until Christopher shot her in the face, then methodically dismembered her body, hiding it in the shed just a few yards from where his children played. Christopher later claimed that the murder was about stopping her from divorcing him. In reality, it was about possession. To him, Tiffany wasn't a person who had the right to leave. She was something he owned. And in court, Christopher made a devastating slip. During a hearing to suppress evidence, the prosecutor asked if Tiffany's death had been a source of stress for him. He tried to deflect, but then admitted, yes, it was. In that moment, he confirmed what investigators already knew. He'd known exactly where Tiffany was the entire time. With that admission, Christopher Morrison pled guilty. In December 2024, almost exactly a year after Tiffany's death, he was sentenced to life in prison with no parole for 25 years. The judge called him a narcissist, accusing him of masking cruelty with words of love. Today, Christopher sits in an Ohio prison. Tiffany's 3 children are being raised by grandparents, robbed of both parents by one senseless, violent act. And East Liverpool, Ohio, is left with the memory of a woman who loved her family, and the chilling knowledge that for 5 days before Christmas, her killer sat at the dinner table pretending nothing had happened. The arrest of Christopher Morrison shattered the image he'd built for himself. On social media, he'd portrayed the doting husband, pictures of family hikes, holiday dinners, and smiling kids. But now, those images took on a sinister edge. In the interrogation room, detectives played their hand carefully. They'd already recovered the body, they'd already spoken to Randy. They had the gun, the bullet, the tarp, and the carpet. But they wanted to know why. Why kill the mother of your children in the days before Christmas? Christopher wouldn't budge. No tears, no visible remorse. Just the same calm insistence that Tiffany had left. When confronted with the physical evidence, he shifted, saying Tiffany's death was an accident, that a gun had just gone off. But the autopsy told another story. The shot had been fired straight into her face from close range. It wasn't a struggle, it was an execution, and the dismemberment, that was deliberate. The medical examiner's report described deep, clean cuts, the kind that required time, tools, and focus. Tiffany had been reduced to black plastic bags, her wedding ring still on her finger. For the prosecution, that detail was damning. If Christopher had acted in the heat of the moment, he could have called 911. He could have tried to save her, but instead, he methodically took her apart and hid her body in the shed, then slept under the same roof as his children. Meanwhile, Randy Slager, the friend who had helped move Tiffany's body under threat, faced his own nightmare. He was arrested and charged with abuse of a corpse. Many in the community asked why he hadn't gone to police sooner. His answer was simple: I was scared for my life. Police believed him. Without his testimony, they might never have found Tiffany in time to build such a strong case. The trial was set for late 2024. For months, the Morrison family lived with the impossible, grieving Tiffany while watching Christopher plead not guilty. The courtroom was packed for every hearing. Tiffany's mother, Deborah, sat in the front row, often holding Kay's hand. 2 women united in grief. One had lost her daughter, the other had lost her son to his own brutality. The prosecution painted Christopher as a controlling, violent man who saw Tiffany as property. They detailed his history, The teenage stabbing, the animal cruelty, the jealous rages, the threats to Jake Hill. They played recordings of Christopher's phone calls from jail, where he alternated between professing his innocence and blaming Tiffany for her own death. The defense had little to work with. They suggested the killing was not premeditated, that Christopher had acted in a moment of emotional chaos. But the planning afterward, the dismemberment, the concealment, left jurors with little doubt. Then came the slip. During a suppression hearing, Christopher was asked about the stress in his life. "Has your wife's death been a stressor for you?" the prosecutor asked. Christopher started to dodge, but then said, "Yes, of course." It was the first time he'd openly referred to Tiffany as dead, confirming he'd known her fate all along. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Christopher changed his plea to guilty. The courtroom was silent as the judge read the sentence. Life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years. He would be 60 before he had the chance to breathe free air again. In her victim impact statement, Deborah addressed Christopher directly. Her voice didn't shake. "You took my daughter from me," she said. "You took a mother from her children. You took Christmas from our family forever." Kay, his own mother, spoke too. She told the court she loved her son, but could not forgive what he had done. "I don't know the man you've become," she said, tears sliding down her face. "I don't know how you could do this to her, to us." The judge's final words were sharp. "You are a narcissist, Mr. Morrison. You mask cruelty with love, and that is the most dangerous kind of cruelty there is." Aftermath. Today, Tiffany's 3 children live with relatives. They are surrounded by love, but they carry a loss that no child should. Kay sees them often, doing her best to protect their memories of their mother. She keeps photos of Tiffany around the house, never letting her be reduced to just a victim. Randy served a short sentence for his role in moving the body, then left Ohio entirely. He has never spoken publicly about that night again. Jake Hill moved away too. In interviews, he has said he still blames himself, that if he had never met Tiffany, maybe she'd still be alive. But friends remind him, the only person responsible is the man who pulled the trigger. For the people of East Liverpool, the case has become a warning about the quiet escalation of domestic violence. Tiffany's friends remember her as vibrant, funny, and endlessly giving. Her co-workers say she lit up any room she entered. And her children, they remember the smell of her perfume, the sound of her laugh, the way she tucked them in at night. Every December, they visit her grave. They decorate it with pine garlands and lights, a bittersweet echo of the Christmas she never saw. Closing hook. It's easy to think monsters look like strangers in the dark, but sometimes they sit across from you at the dinner table, wrap their arms around you in family photos, and kiss you goodnight. Tiffany Morrison's story is not just about the horror of what happened. It's about the warning signs we too often ignore, and the lives left shattered when love turns lethal. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic abuse, there is help. I'll leave resources in the description, because no one should have to wait until it's too late to escape.